Welcome to episode 1 out of 10 of my brand new series on how to start your own business. Now, I'll be honest with you, this was supposed to be a paid course. I've built this entire curriculum trying to get paid. However, I realized that me getting paid doesn't hold enough social value, at least not versus me letting this loose into the world and helping so many people for free. People who can't afford this course, for example. So that is why I'm just giving it away for free. There's no upsales, next level pro courses, no products, no affiliate marketing, nothing. This is the course. It is 100% free. And based on my decade of experience as a senior financial analyst working with some of the smartest entrepreneurs I've ever seen, I think this course holds a lot of value. So I suggest you listen up. The thing about ideas that I want you to understand is that, as shocking as it may sound, most of you, or at least some of you, have already had or will have a multi-million-dollar idea in their head, like most people. However, unlike most people, there's only a handful of people who take these ideas and materialize them into actual living, breathing businesses, creating multinational, multi-billion-dollar businesses out of good ideas. So in this video, I'll show you how to identify these ideas and how to actually not let them die and carry them over into an actual entrepreneurship. So let's start with value definition. One of the common mistakes I've seen in my decade as a financial analyst is entrepreneurs not giving enough resources and time to define their value proposition. Here's the thing, without a good value proposition, a good idea is a mere fantasy. It's nothing more than a concept. If you have a good idea on how to generate cash, that's just a money-making scheme. That's not an idea for a viable, sustainable, long-term business. Unless you can figure out a way to contribute value to society with your idea, with your business, this is not going to last. You probably will make a few bucks, but you won't be able to build a sustainable, real business around it unless your idea creates a value for society, unless your idea solves a problem currently existing in society in a different manner of anything existing in the pool of solutions today. And here's a few examples of what value proposition looks like. My value proposition on this channel is to provide financial education to people who are interested in starting a business. The bus company has a completely different value proposition, taking people from point A to point B, from their house to their work, from their work to their house. The idea is that unless you can clearly define the value proposition of your business in one sentence, if you have any aspirations of getting money from investors, you need to be able to explain in a sentence not just how you're going to make money, which is important, but also, more importantly, how this idea will improve society. Without it, this whole idea is a house of cards, and with a simple poof, it will go away. You need to be very clear how you're going to contribute to society and how this contribution will translate it into making cash. Unless you have these two elements existent and you're able to explain it in a sentence, that's never going to happen. Every time I sat in a boardroom or conference room with investors or potential investors and would hear an entrepreneur go on a tangent about what their business is, you knew right away this guy or girl will never get funded. You need to be very clear and very simple in what you do, why you do it, how it helps society, and how it can generate money. And based on what I just said a second ago, you're probably going to agree with me that this isn't going to be simple. And your next question, logically, rightfully, would be, so how do I do that? How do I find my value? Well, here's how. By communicating. One of the greatest mistakes I see entrepreneurs do is holding the cards to their chest, like it's the 1950s. You have to share your idea. You have to talk to your colleagues, to potential investors. Of course, you shouldn't tell about your idea to your competitors and to people you don't know. But if you're having conversations with your colleagues, with your friends, with your family, with people you trust, or people you have an NDA with, and about that in a second, then it's more welcome that you share your ideas than none. Essentially, holding your cards close to the chest and not sharing anybody is an outdated approach. That way you get stuck in tunnel vision. You need feedback from your environment to understand and improve and adjust your ideas so you can find your value proposition. So now that you hopefully defined your value proposition, let's talk about the next stage. The next logical stage would be to define your demographic. Who this product, who this service, who this business is intended for. One of the most common mistakes I see entrepreneurs do again and again is throttle all the way down, go full force ahead without understanding or even thinking about who this product or service is designed for. Working hard is not working smart. And let me give you an example. If my left ear is itchy, I can do that, solve the problem. No longer itches. However, if I keep itching the wrong ear, my problem did not solve itself and I wasted a lot of energy on itching the wrong ear. Or, another example, if I have an itch in my left ear, I can do that, or I can do that. This would be simpler. I don't need to burn 20-hour days for 7 days a week if I can work 2 hours and do that. So those examples are kind of funny, but they're here to serve a point. The idea is that once we understand that there's a need in society and we have a value to solve that problem, we need to understand who this needs applies to in the society. We need to understand our demographic. We can't create a viable business without first defining who this product or service is intended for. And that definition is critical. You can't rush through it. The next stage would be evaluating your potential market. That's really important, but there's a lot of pitfalls in that area. Let me explain. I've been through countless meetings where people come in and say, hey, we have a new shoe, a new dog food, and whatever. And if we just can capture 1% of the global shoe market, 1% of the global dog food market, we're going to make millions in the first year. Right away, these meetings would end up really quick. Stage number 3 is more investor oriented. The first thing you'll have to do is raise money. And if you want to raise money, people will ask you questions about how your runway will look like. So you need to build a scenario about your own cash flow. And here's the thing. People tend to do this mistake all the time. They'll take a huge market and say, okay, if we only capture 1% of that market, we're going to make billions. Well, if you hear that as an investor, that's a bailout. You press and you eject out of that meeting immediately, because that is one of the biggest horseshit in the business. Because this kind of attitude will not get you money, because it shows lack of research, lack of effort, and lack of understanding how hard it is to capture 1% of anything. You need to be very prudent, very careful, and very conservative with your numbers. You need to come and say, hey, this is our bear case. Our bear case is based on the worst possible scenario. And even in our worst possible scenario, if everything goes wrong, I still believe we can make money if we do A, B, and C. If you just go in there with huge numbers like Nicola style, hey, billions, 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 you're not going to get the money beyond the fact that you're going to look like an idiot. Nobody wants to see the optimistic scenario. They all want to see the worst case scenario, because guess what? Most often, this business will go through a rough patch, or once, or twice, or 50 times. And these investors want to know that the guy in charge considered the worst case scenario and it's still doable with these funds they're asking for. I can guarantee you 3 things. Number 1, at some point, we're all going to die. Number 2, we're all going to pay taxes. Number 3, if you step foot into an investment meeting with this happy-go-lucky approach about your market size, you're not getting funded. Simple. Next stage is coming up with the monetization plan. One of the most common mistakes I keep seeing again and again entrepreneurs do is come into these investment meetings and have no plan how to monetize their business. They have a great plan on how to generate traffic, how to get attention, how to promote, but they haven't given any thought on how to actually generate cash from this business. And in the beginning of this training, I told you, it's really important to understand what is your social value, how this business is going to help the world, for sure. But there's a flip side to that. No investor will give you money if that solution can't generate money. These are not philanthropists. Well, you can find philanthropists, but if you want to try to get a business funding, these guys need to see how this solution, how this added value to society can generate cash. Unless you can present an argument about that, you're not getting funded. And it doesn't have to be a perfect plan. It doesn't have to be bulletproof. But if you want to get funded, you need to show potential investors that you have invested mental resources, time, and energy into trying to figure out how to monetize this business. If you can't show that you actually went through the motion, went through the grind, and came up with an interesting solution, you're not going to get funded. And of course, these investors know that this monetization plan that you're showing in the beginning might pivot 100 times before you actually make money. The investors need to feel that you understand their needs. Their needs is not to give you money because you're nice and kind and you have a cool idea. Their need is to make money. You need to show that you understand that and you're doing everything in your power based on your current information to make that happen for them. You don't have to promise them, you don't have to make unrealistic expectations, but you need to show that you thought about the investors and how the investors make money, not your cool idea taking place. It's really important. The next stage is actually very interesting because it's partially connected to the previous stage, and that is taking your monetization and turning it into a business model, an actual logistical plan on how to carry out your monetization plan into actual dollars or whatever currency you're using. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have an IT business and your monetization idea is to monetize that database. You create traffic, people sign up, they leave a lot of data for you, and you can sell that data. That's the concept. Now, this concept has to become a business model. So you need to figure out how much it costs to acquire a client, how much it costs to do the data mining, how much it's going to cost to distribute it, what's going to be your margin, potential clients, growth, scaling up. The whole logistical plan has to be in place if you want to get funded. That's the next stage. No matter how good your idea is, how phenomenal it is, some markets have so much regulation that it's nearly impossible to get in as a new competitor into that market. There's a lot of examples. We're not going to get into that in this video, but trust me, some markets you just literally can't get into. So that's going to be your first stage, understanding regulatory and financial barriers to get into a market. Maybe this market needs billions to get into. Maybe it needs some heavy regulatory heavy lifting that you just can't do at this point. The next stage is understanding the competitors. Who are the main competitors in this market? What kind of market share each has? What are the business models of each competitor? How they're making money? What kind of money they're making? What are their margins? And most importantly, you need to figure out what you will do better than everybody else. What is your wheelhouse, your unique talent, your unique angle that you can solve a problem better than any one of these companies in a specific field? Maybe they haven't thought about it. Maybe they're doing the solution, but you can do it cheaper. You can do it better. You need to find an advantage. If you don't have a single advantage and you're just a new competitor trying to join in on the trend, that's never going to get funded. Simple. Now, as always, in every single video, and this video specifically, we have to say a huge thanks for our channel members and our Patreons. You guys are making it possible for me to do this for free for everybody. Without it, this would be a paid course. So every single one of you, say thanks in the comment section to the Patreons and channel members because they're essentially paying for this for you.